have been nice to be on the countdown screen. That would have been polite. Hello, 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 you wonderful people, and y'all on time. We love it when y'all are on time for service. The doors of the church are now open. I am here with the one, the what's that one? The only Miss Erica Cobb, child, and we are getting ready to get into the pop culture of it all. Erica, hey girl.
Hey, Al. Hey, I am so honored to be here. Okay. You
Stop.
are doing the things, girl. And I mean, it's so much dedication. I love my content creator community. You are just, you're amazing. You're amazing.
I appreciate that because you and Karamo are like my Jenny Jones and my Ricky Lake. Like I love Black people, especially in the pop culture space, and not to get too like, oh, what was me? I'm Black, but it's not really a space where we get to thrive typically with our authentic opinions. Sometimes in those mainstream media spaces, we have to lean towards, one of those only two options for Black people.
Mhm. Yeah.
So to see Black people like you and then like Karamo just literally show up in the pop culture space and be yourselves and say, like, these are my opinions. This is what I was doing at that time. And just give that level of representation that's not like, we were in the Hamptons partying when this happened.
No, I've never been to the Hamptons. That's not to say I'll never go, but I've never been. That's not exactly my space. Um,
Mm-mm.
but no, I really have just, I mean, it's what luck meets opportunity, and I've just been ready for those opportunities when they've come, and so I think that's just the message to everybody. Get prepared, and when the timing's right, then amazing things can happen, and that's just my testimony.
Stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. That's
Exactly. Exactly.
that's what my grandmother used to say all the time. Like I was born ready. What am I getting ready for?
Exactly.
Guys, first of all, I do want to say that my allergies did try to take me out yesterday, and I sounded like, girl, don't even worry about it. we don't we don't need the news from you. And I think that was good because Monday through Wednesday was giving slow mo. The news was kind of like,
E
okay.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Thursday happened,
Mhm.
and they said, here is everything. I think I want to start here. This was like the lamest news of the week, but I feel like it gave the biggest talking point into conversation and who you keep around you. You
Mhm.
know that the girl that used to be Meg Thee Stallion's best friend, Kelsey, came out and she is doing promo for Nicki Minaj's new sneaker line.
Yeah. Yeah.
What say you?
I this bothers me on so many different levels because obviously Meg Thee Stallion and Nicki Minaj have this like ongoing tension. And we don't really know when we're looking at pop culture space, like how much of that is manufactured for, us to be somehow call to action. And I
Hmm.
think back to the days of Kanye West dropped an album the same week that 50 Cent dropped an album. And I was in that space at the time because I was doing morning radio in Chicago. So both artists came in and it was like this whole thing. And a lot
Hmm.
of that was, it's promo and it's a way to get people activated. So
It's provocative. It gets the people going.
yeah, I never know how much of it is authentic and how much of it isn't. But when you're talking about someone like a Kelsey and Megan, who clearly were besties, they were like sisters. And then all of this happens with Tory Lanez, and Kelsey all of a sudden gets very convenient amnesia. And then she starts speaking out against one of her, who used to be her best friend. And that just never is okay with me to bring
Never.
inside information out in such a public way. Even if you had a falling out, even if, you don't see eye to eye and you're not friends anymore. But she publicly tried to disseminate this woman. And if it weren't for Megan, no one would know who Kelsey is. Like, I still don't know who Kelsey is. Like, I have no idea. Like, if you have to have a whole, like, qualifier of who you are, Meg Thee Stallion's former best friend, Kelsey Nicole, then, like, you should not be in a space. There should not be a space provided for you in that way.
And there's not, allegedly, she was supposed to do Love and Hip Hop, Houston or Texas, wherever Mona was supposed to take it next, and she was supposed to be a cast member, and then we couldn't build anything. Who do you build an ensemble cast around with this girl who only is known because of, like you said, who her best friend is? It's also sad. It's sad on two levels, in my opinion. Number one, I think sometimes when we see people in the media, there is this presumed level of maturity that doesn't necessarily apply in real life. Megan and Kelsey are both young 20 some odd year old women, at least at when this happened, because we've been
Right.
doing this Kelsey, Tori, Meg thing for a minute, right? But we're talking about 23, 24, 25-year olds who get access to everything, things that people normally have to work for. Duh, it's messy. Duh, it's sloppy, because normally 22, 23-year-olds is out here, they are sleeping with their friends. Like, there is a such thing as girl code, but in that space, in that party scene, those overlappings are happening with no cameras in your face. Now it's happening with cameras. And I feel like people expect both Meg and Kelsey on both ends to handle this like you would in your 35-year-old friend
Mhm.
group, when those women just haven't reached that point in life and in maturity. And then it's sad because if you were my best friend, if I let you cry on my shoulder when your mom passed away, when your grandma passed away, a lot of things, a lot of disrespectful things could happen. But you know what I would never do? What Kelsey's doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it reeks of desperation. And honestly, I'm not faulting her for being desperate because she put herself, we don't know her, Tammy. Uh, she put herself in this situation by forgetting how she got to where she became. And it's not like she was on stable ground anyway. She got there based on an association of someone who was successful. And
Hmm.
when you do that, and this has happened, I mean, you think about it, just bringing it to everyday people. You can think of people who you were there for, you gave them comfort, they may have given you comfort, but that relationship was never equal footing. And then something happens and all of a sudden the person who benefited a lot from being your friend turns on you thinking that they've made it to this certain level that they're going to be able to sustain whatever, either growth or notoriety or financial, whatever it is, without you. And a lot of that is because it's the idea of a snake only sheds its skin to become a bigger snake. So they're looking at
And this
you.
was gonna say, and turns on me for
Yeah.
shoes that look like this.
Mhm. Yeah. It's sad. It really is sad. But also it's kind of like because she, I guess, apparently took the post down. She has a
Hmm.
lot of growing to do. I wouldn't say that that's something that happens just because you're 35. I'm 43 and I've experienced some things in the past couple years that I'm like, I thought we were too old for this, but apparently we are not. Uh,
We still do this in this age group,
like at
this
this big
demographic.
age. Like, I'm embarrassed to think that I'm like even like in this conversation. Like, that's
Girl.
how bad it gets. But that's just the way that people are, because ultimately envy, greed, power, it becomes the root of all evil. And just as fast as you rose, you will fall like a ton of
Mm,
bricks.
mm, mm, Someone, Tammy is our virtual producer, our Norman Baker, if you will. She said, "What are those? The world's ugliest shoes." Don't, but it also makes me question seeing stuff like this. It's like, well, damn, Kelsey, how long did you hate her?
Oh, the whole time. I guarantee the whole time. It really is like people need to understand this is something because, I do the comeback and I talk about these things all the time.
Hmm.
You will have people that come to your life because they're attracted to your light. And they literally have a mental checklist of,
Yes.
okay, so people think that because of her relationship, okay, so now I need to get this relationship. Oh, the house. Okay, let me get this house. Oh, the car. Let me get this car. Oh, well, she does this and so I'm going to do that. And then when they start checking it all off, and they think that that is the entire scope of who you are and why you have that light, then they're like, oh, well, I stole the light, so I can keep it moving. And screw that person for showing me the steps to this light. Like, now I have the light. And then they walk out and it's like, why is it so dark over here? Because you're dark.
Because
Because
you're
you
well,
are
it's
dark,
also because the sauce is not in the things. It's the Nipsey hustle. It's in me. It's not on me. You
right?
can get on here, and it's happened for me in content creation all the time. The da 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 da. Da, let's chit chat. The crazy names that I call people will pop up on other people. Say it's not the he the ha ha. It's me.
Right.
You
Right.
can go get it bar for bar. You know what I mean? But what is for me is for me. What is for you is for you. So you have to go find that sauce. But it's the like you said, it's the I'm gonna get this thing and I'm gonna get this piece. It's not the things, baby. I
It's
promise
really
you, it's
not.
not them things. Speaking of things, people will do crazy things for worldly possessions and for money. This John Amos story has been crazy from the beginning. From the beginning, I was like, take me out the chat. I don't want to know about dad like that. That's too much. And then they seem to take us out the chat and then they put us right back in. For those of you who don't know, at the top of the week, we found out that John Amos passed away 45 days prior to when we, the public, found out. And I'm cool with that. Certain things do not belong to us just because other people share their art with us. I'm great on that fact. After that, we then found out via John Amos's daughter that she found out with the world that 45 days ago, her dad passed away. We then get this post, and it was signed off by John Amos's daughter, goddaughter, sister, and all of these things. I'm not going to read it for you. In short, they are basically saying that Casey Amos, who is John Amos's son, took advantage of him. They are labeling it as elder abuse. They say that he shunned out the family. Nobody had access to him, and because John Amos in his old age had dementia, he kind of played on that. Also in that piece, they reference this is John Amos's Amy is John Amos's goddaughter. They reference that Casey has done something similar with his mom, who is also no longer with us. So they are establishing a pattern and they are going the legal route to finding this out. Then we find out, because that's not enough, we get a picture of a young lady who says that she put the Hello Kitty on John Amos just a few days before the passing of the away. Okay. Then we find out that there was a daughter in the hospital when John Amos passed away, but it was not his biological daughter. They believe it's the person who is pretending to be his publicist, which would be different than the girlfriend. Okay. And then we find out this morning that the doctors had reached out to John Amos's daughter and that camp of family because John Amos wasn't getting his medication and his cancer treatments were being ignored. Damn, damn, damn.
Well, here's first of all, this story is incredibly tragic for a lot of different reasons, but it is very common. I am the daughter of a funeral director. I hear, stories. I've heard stories my entire life. I've witnessed some things, and that's the reason why I'm very proactive in making sure that I have people on my platform who can speak to being proactive, especially when it comes to estate planning, when it comes to
Mhm.
living wills, because as we saw in the Wendy Williams documentary, it's very complicated when you have someone who had power, resource, fame, and then all of a sudden something changes with their health and the vultures come in. And ultimately, it becomes a full-time job for people who are close, the family members, protectors, people who may have the best interest in order to unravel the situation if the situation wasn't done in a way that this will is already here. The estate is already planned. We have a checks and balances system, which a lot of people do not have.
Duh.
Um, that's why this is all so important, because we saw in the Wendy Williams doc that Wendy obviously was not herself, and all of these vultures came in to take advantage of the situation. And even her niece, who seemed to have a very clear head and perspective about all of these things, she has her own life in another state. And now she's trying to help on this
Mhm.
side where the vultures have no life. They are predators. Their
Committed to this.
line is to glom onto whatever sense of financial resource or fame or whatever. That's their full-time job. And it's very difficult, unless you're independently wealthy, to either hire someone to combat this and be the eyes and ears when you're not there, or to just say,
Mhm.
"This is going to now become my full-time job," because the devil works super hard. So
He doesn't sleep.
so much shade in this situation, but this is why it's really important that you are proactive about at least starting the process of estate planning. And my husband and I planned our estate 2 years ago, because we don't have children. And if something were to happen, it would be an absolute mess figuring out like who
What
is
goes where?
do what, right? But then you have our parents who are of a certain age, and I've had these conversations with my parents, and it's very difficult. And I'm just going to be very honest, especially with Black fathers. It is so hard. It really is, because
Yeah.
Black men of a certain age want you to know that they did not work this hard for this legacy for you to just be like, "Oh, I'm going to get rich off of your death." So then they become real quiet about what
Mhm.
is and what's happening with their money and their legacy. And then what
Mhm.
happens? There's dementia comes around. Now
And you
it's
don't know
like,
nothing.
and I've been very clear with my father, the funeral director. Okay. So it's not just like people who are like novice. I'm
These are
like,
people with
listen,
knowledge.
you have all like my father always says to me when someone like, especially when I have a friend whose parent is passing or has passed away, if you make the decisions now before they pass, it becomes a business
Mhm.
decision. If you make the decision after they pass, it becomes an emotional decision.
Emotional decision.
So you have to be proactive about this. But also, men and some women, you have to be transparent about what your wishes are and how you would like those wishes executed.
No, you absolutely have to be. So I remember I lost, well, my best friend and I, we've been best friends since the first day of ninth grade. In our early 20s, mid 20s, her mom passed away. She was an only kid of her mom. She has siblings on her dad's side, but her mom's the only kid, and her mom lived with her at the house. At that point, they start planning the funeral and all of that. And this was my first time being that close to planning a funeral and seeing what she didn't know and what she needed and all of these things. Her mom had already been sick. So some stuff was set in place because she knew it was coming. But still, I was like, oh, wow, like I don't know anything. I am a Jersey girl, a blue collar girl. My dad is in the ILA. That's where I was getting all the inside information from the port strike. So certain stuff is, as well as my husband, certain stuff has been in place, right? Like I've done my will and my afterlife planning and all of that because I have to for my husband's job. My dad had to for his job. But when we came back, I said, "Sir, I don't, I don't know nothing." And this man was looking at me like I was trying to rob him. I said, "Sir, you can keep the passport, the passwords to all of your accounts. I'm not asking you for any money." I even asked, so they finally, my sister was helping them or whatever, and so she tells, she tells me the other day, mom and dad basically left their caregiving to me because they know you're not going to do. And I said, wait a minute. It's not that I'm not going to do it, but I told them I would dip into whatever they left me to hire somebody to be in our house because that's one thing they didn't want, but to be in our house and to take care of them. But I did not have the emotional capacity and I did not want to put them through the emotional turmoil of me taking care of them in that way if it ever got there. Them being sick like that is not in our family history, but I've also had friends who have had to like wipe their dads behind and bathe them. And I saw what that did for the dad. I wouldn't want that for my parents. So I said, I don't. I'm fine here as I stand as an adult. If you're gonna leave me something to make sure that you're taken care of properly. We don't have to worry
Right.
about bad tours. They can come here. But I'm not asking you for the passwords to your account now. I just want you to tell me where the paperwork is, what you would like. Would you like to go in the ground? Would you like to be cremated? You know what I'm saying? Do you want to be on a t-shirt? Do you want the food? What is you trying to? I'm trying to honor your wishes. So could you tell them to me while you're coherent? That'd be great.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah,
And they're like, it's all taken care of.
that is not an answer. I just want to be very clear to anyone who is listening and you're in this situation. It's all taken care of is not an answer because
I don't know what
then
to
you
do.
have no depth of reference as to what all taken care of means. My
Mm-hmm.
thought was my dad told me when I was like 10 years old, when I die, I'm not leaving y'all anything. I okay. Okay. So for my
Make it
entire
plain,
life,
Pastor.
I have never thought, I've had friends who have had, relatives and stuff pass away and they get, X amount of money or whatever. I
Mm-hmm.
know that that is not my ministry. Also, I have worked very hard to not have to depend on someone's
On
demise
that.
in
Cause
order
that's so morbid. I'm waiting on my parents to die so I can live my best life. What?
I mean, I honestly, I think a lot of people, do themselves an injustice, and some parents do their kids an injustice by implying that they are going to leave them something, because then that becomes a part of people's mental financial planning, whether they
Mm-hmm.
know that
Mm-hmm.
that's happening or not. So it's like, okay, well, I'm doing not okay now, or when this happens, then I'll pay off this, or I'll be
If
able
I
to
can keep this
house.
car for 4 more years, my mom is 59 plus 4. Our family life expectancy is
It's
go flip
it's
a
really
burger.
crazy, and here are the stats too. When you are someone like that, it's generally less than a year that you blow through everything, because when you
There's no
weren't a
money
part
training.
of making the donuts, you eat them faster. So it's just
Mm-hmm.
what it is. So I get why some parents, or especially in a situation like John Amos, it's like this has been a very publicly tumultuous situation for quite some time. We already knew that there were issues within the family and they were bringing it to the media. Like nobody
Absolutely.
wants that. So they knew that there was an anticipation that this was an issue. My question is, why wasn't there more done on the other side in order to level this situation out? Because 45 days of not knowing that your father was deceased, how long of a period of time were you generally going without contact? And
Well,
I'm
they
not,
said that Casey was blocking them out. He was not allowing phone calls. He was not allowing visitors. Like he basically had his dad on lockdown. But my question was similar to yours. John M, we've known him. I have known him my whole life. You
yeah.
feel what I'm saying? And so if we just count my years, you had 34 years to get your paperwork in order. That is mind blowing to me, but it also goes to show not even just the predatory nature of the industry, but also this lack of preparedness from a consumer side. Once you see somebody on TV, it's assumed that certain safeguards are in place. It's assumed
Oh,
that you get this package, right? Like you know what I mean? Like it's the TV magic of it all. It's like you're Erica Cobb, you're on TV. Here's your publicist. Here's your lawyer. Here's your financial planner. Here's your. It's assumed that they sit you down at a table and they're like, "This is John. That's Amy. This is Bob. Here's your stylist." And obviously, those things don't happen. Deion Sanders' son just said in an interview that Deion Sanders didn't have no trust fund set up for his kids. Deion Sanders didn't have a trust fund set up for his kids. So to me, that what I'm learning from that, or what I'm hearing in that, is that like Deion Sanders today is still working for today and the future. This is a man who has used his body to the fullest extent. He has been on campaign after campaign. You know what I mean? This is Deion Sanders. And at what is he, 60 something years old, second marriage? We are what?
because when it's easy come, and I'm not saying that, the idea of working the way that Deion Sanders worked was an
But it's still
easy.
fast money. It's still
It's
fast money.
fast money, and it's a lot of money, and it's so early on that you are conditioned to believe that this is going to last forever, especially when Dion was playing and getting endorsement deals and all of that. No one was talking about financial literacy. In fact, that it was more valuable to know that you had a golden goose, that all of these people, because let's talk about all of the financial planners and advisors and the people
Mm-hmm.
who were just
Taking advantage.
and it's too much for the average 20 something year old to really wrap their minds around, okay, well, this is what I need to do to secure my future. That's something that a lot of us learn much later in life. That's why I learned it later in life. That's the reason why by the time that I did book a national talk show, I had really nothing to me personally, because I had gone through a bankruptcy, unemployment, and divorce. So I was starting over just a couple years before that happened. And what I didn't want to have happen, because I know so many people who made fast money, and by the time that, 5 years goes by and now they're scrambling to figure out what to do with the rest of their lives, I just felt like I was in a fortunate situation to lose everything when I didn't have as much to lose. Because
Hello? I'd rather lose $20 than 20 million, baby.
all day,
Every time.
every day.
Every time.
Yes, yes. So that's not surprising.
It's not, but it's definitely sad. And I like people like Candy Burris, who talks about even just when Candy originally booked Real Housewives of Atlanta, and talking about at that point what she did to sustain and to set herself up for financial freedom. I'm a Georgia girl from the south side of Georgia, so she had a house in Fayetteville, Georgia. That was the one that she was living in. The studio was there. This whole Candy Burris and then Tina Knowles, but this whole idea of you are the makeup artist until you can hire a makeup artist. This is where the studio is until we can afford to go out to whatever it is, so that you can bring home as much of the pie as possible. I appreciate celebrities who have, assumably, a nice bag that tell us about those things. Candy Burris during COVID was telling us, like, what people were doing, what she was doing with her life insurance, and encouraging people, listen, now's the time. You don't have life insurance, you were home, we ain't doing nothing, go ahead and get that taken care of.
Mhm.
I know for me, I'm a little snooty with it. I remember somebody in our family passed away. um they it wasn't like they had the corporate job or whatever, so my mother sends me the GoFundMe for the funeral. I said, oh no, ma'am, i pay i I pay my life insurance bills all the time. You chose your whole life to not go to work, to not do the things. You know what I mean? Then you don't get a oak box. I feel like I'm gonna put some money on this repass, and that's gonna be it. But I'm not dropping helping make that $10,000 to get the tombstone and the. Mm-mm. Go ahead on and be in somebody's bracelet. Let somebody wear you around your neck, cause
Girl, girl, well, let me tell you this, because I do find, I'm very transparent about my life and most of it. But when my grandfather passed away, who he passed away very suddenly. It was a tragic accident, and he was very young. Like
mm,
he was 60. He had just made 60.
wow.
And he passes, and it was unexpected, and there wasn't a life insurance policy. So everything's done, everything was, taken care of, but we didn't get him a tombstone. And at the time, there was just so much that was happening. My family isn't like rich or anything, so it's like when you have a sudden death like that and there's no way to cover it, then a lot of people don't get those things. And that's the thing. It's like you have to leverage like where you are and be honest about where you are. I didn't get my granddaddy a tombstone until 2021. I got one for him. I got one for my uncle. I got one for my great aunt. We got five tombstones.
Balling.
Because honestly, it was a time in my life where I was like, This is something it's been weighing on me since the day that my grandfather died, that he
Yeah,
didn't
you
have a
can
funeral.
do that now. That's an act of service, though. That's different. And those tragic accidents are different than choosing as
Yeah.
a grown person with kids, just actively making the decision to not on all levels. And then turning around once you were no longer here in the physical, saying, oh, well, can you put in thousands of dollars for this person
Yeah.
who made an active decision every day they like to not?
And also, a $10,000 funeral is not a requirement. And people need to know that,
Louder.
because it's not a requirement. It doesn't absolve anyone from anything that happened while that person was here. It doesn't get them into the kingdom any faster, or
It's
there's
for
no
you.
it,
It's for you.
exactly. Funerals are for the living. So if this is it's a flex that people don't talk about, but just like people deciding to spend tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands on a
On the
wedding
wedding.
that they cannot afford, people do the same things on funerals that they can't afford because they don't want it to look bad or shameful. And it's like there's a lot of different ways you can honor people. And it doesn't mean that you have to have this. I mean, a $10,000 funeral is for someone who can afford a $10,000 funeral. Because keep in mind that
That's somebody
body
who
is
lived a
not going in
$10,000
the
life.
ground. Yeah, you can't just drop off someone at a funeral home and expect the funeral director, i.e. my father, to eat that cost. Like that doesn't happen that way. So just be aware of, like, there might be other ways that are more economical for you to honor your loved ones.
No, there definitely is. When my grandfather passed away, they put his picture up on the mantle, and we just had like open house hours. Again, deep. We was deep in the South, baby. We was we was in the
Yeah.
country, but we were so country that I think maybe 3 years before my grandfather passed away, they had just gotten the roads in their town paved. Other than that, they were still dirt roads in their town, and they were like, when we came to visit, they were like, "Y'all don't like it? They got paved roads now." Like, girl,
I
please.
love it.
For one thing that I don't believe in, to another, Melania Trump came out yesterday. And quite like Trump's running mate, she decided to lie in cursive, just like JD Vance on the debate stage. She wanted to tell us that Donald Trump and JD Vance, along with herself, believe in women reproductive rights. Now, I just want to stop right there, because were you in the White House when your husband was in the White House? Because you could say that he believes in reproductive rights, but stacking the Supreme Court with people who abolished those rights, not so much. At the end of this speech, that didn't even mirror Trump's campaign rhetoric, honestly, she let us know that this was all one big promo for her book, Melania. And you could go to melaniatrump.com to get you a book. This, to me, just exemplifies how much of a joke they think this election is. Number one, with a straight face, Melania's team told CNN that they wanted $250,000 for an interview. This is journalism. That's not how this works. Okay. This is not a club appearance. Number two, this is Melania Trump, who has also been paid with campaign dollars for campaign appearances. That's illegal. Okay. And then number three, we are talking about one of the most impactful elections in our history, our being this immediate demographic, to compound that with your book promo, to me just really solidified that y'all want to be in office for your gain. And now we don't even have to like assume that's what you're here for. We know, because what is this? What did you think about it, Erica?
Well, I think it's just par for the course. And this is a definite Hail Mary, because unlike what was happening, when Biden was still our nominee, there's a lot of uncertainty as to who will win this race. And
Very much.
I think that Melania is putting herself in a place where, if her husband does not win, that she has put out her ideas and wrapped it up in this binding of a book, and
Yes,
that she
ma'am.
is going to take all of her payouts and disappear into the sunset. It's
Yes,
also
ma'am.
very cinemagraphically daunting, because the half of the face where it's like dark and the half where it's light, it's saying a lot. It's saying a lot. And girl, we not reading this. We're really not. We're not
Wait.
gonna read this. I am going to wait for the person who makes the decision to read it from cover to cover, my favorite content creators, and I want to hear what the Cliff Notes version of this are. Because no, there's just no way. There's absolutely no way. And it's like almost like just like the two sides, she is speaking out of both sides of her mouth. Like, it is what it is. I do believe her when she says that she believes in women's rights and reproductive freedom. I don't think that anyone who has utilized their body if for public display. I find those two things to be very a weird juxtaposition. This is not shaming anyone. Like, I believe that sex work is real work. I
For real.
believe that, people should be able to consensually and safely participate in whatever form, as long as they're not hurting anyone else. I believe those things. But I
Hmm.
do believe that there would be an entire disconnect between someone saying, let me have full autonomy over my body and how I utilize it, but don't let women have full autonomy over their body and their reproductive rights. And the other thing is, just to kind of like, because this came up in an earlier conversation, a meeting that I had, I do find this entire situation to be just, I mean, it's back and forth anyway, but we're so focused on women not having the autonomy to say that they need to terminate a pregnancy. But we're not really focused on the women who want to have children but cannot. It's
Mm-hmm.
so clearly you want to populate the earth, but you want to populate the earth with people who aren't prepared for said population and not allow access to people who are and simply cannot. So that tells me that you're not looking to populate the earth necessarily in a way that is going to be is it a way that is you want people to be stuck in situations that they are already stuck in because you're trying to populate certain demographics. Because
Hmm.
if you're someone who can't afford, or this is something that's going to be a strain on your life, that it's going to keep you in a place, at least for a period of time, that you're unable to elevate. It seems all very much aligned with this agenda of populating the lower to middle class.
I don't even think it's just the specifically just the lower to middle class. I want to say it was in 2019. A piece came out that said, based on the trajectory of the census, that by 2060, white people will no longer be the majority race in the US. From there, in my opinion, a scramble began. When that study came out, there was a study, and I'm not going to quote a number because I don't remember it, right? But the study showed that white middle to lower income women benefit from abortion services at a higher rate than African American or Latina. So that to me says that this here is a push. Does it harm by proxy other people in those demographics? For sure. But the main goal is to make sure that the majority is held. And because by their own rules, with this whole, have you seen online they're calling it the Diana Rossification of families, where you
But I get what you're
you
putting.
get it. um, those who got it. If you can't, I'm not gonna spell it out. But by their definition, those are still black babies.
Mhm.
So it's that Kanye to all my other impregnate Bridget. So when she have a baby, she'll make another. Exactly. So this isn't helping, and this is where the trajectory and the dating and all of that, the data is showing us that it's leaning that way. You have to do something to autocorrect when you do that, um, in the spaces that you still maintain power, and that's what we're
Mhm.
facing. I also think, and I said this last night on my political show, The Pulse, with me, the activist Millie Chan Kinney from Too Raw Too Real, that women like Melania were okay during that time frame that Trump and his team is referencing when they say make America great again. During those great years for them, women like Melania were okay. Is that a generalization? Absolutely. But again, when you're talking about who Kamala Harris is currently, I was going to say pandering, but there's an implication there, but who she's currently talking to on her tour and trying to solidify this blue wall in the election, the split vote are the women. You're
Mm.
talking to Christian women and you're talking to white women whose white men have already showed you where they're voting. Those numbers are there. So now you're trying to basically divide a household. And you're dividing a household again when they are still going to be okay. And when I say they, for those listening, I'm talking about people with money. It doesn't matter what the law says, okay? If a politician needs to get somebody an abortion, that abortion will be had.
Right. Right.
If somebody with money needs to get their kid out of a situation, it's going to get out. Just like these kids was going to college talking about something, they was on swim teams and never even swam a day before in their life. It gets done. Okay, they will handle what they need to handle. It's the we's of the world, the little peoples of the world that will not be okay. And I've said this before. I now today we are 33 days out from the election. I'm not citing any more policies to you. If you cared about policies, you wouldn't be on the fence. Your decision would be made. You would know you're voting. You would know who you're voting for. You would know your voting plan. So at 33 days, I'm gonna kick it to you real raw, real real. Okay. If you want your kids to still be in free public school, if you like your rights as a woman, as a person of color here in America, Trump just last night said that if he was president, one of the first things that he would do was clean house in Springfield, Ohio. Now, I don't know who he's cleaning because on record, most of the immigrants in Springfield, Ohio are there legally. That's not the point. The point is, if you think that when Donald Trump looks at a black person, he can differentiate between, oh, you're Haitian and you're African American, you're sadly mistaken. We are all the same to him. When he's talking about them, he's talking about us. Vote.
Well, no, and I appreciate that. I think it ultimately, and you're absolutely right. I've talked about that census a lot because, and I've been misquoted. And when you were like, I'm not sure of the numbers, I'm like, how many times my producer has been like, the numbers actually in 2028 and da, 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 whatever.
So I'm like, I'm not gonna say a number. Y'all not gonna hang me.
Right, exactly. But you are right. I think it's a little bit of both. It's the idea of the preservation of white babies. It's the idea of the preservation of the working class. It's not about, making sure that, I think that to me, and this is just my opinion, I have no data to support this, but what I was saying was the idea that IVF was brought to the table was a signal to all of those women who may be thinking about splitting the vote within their household that you can be loud and all the things about women's rights, but this will affect you too. I thought that
Mm-hmm.
dog whistle, that it was something that to even like bring it to the carpet. So that's the reason why when Donald Trump then all of a sudden said, well, I'll make IVF free. Like, brought, no, you're not. Like, let me tell you that that's not happening.
And
Now,
how? With your concept of a plan?
right. I mean, you can't, it's really playing, and this as someone who has been on the IVF journey for the past 2 years, it really is
Mm-hmm.
playing to the emotions of people. Now, something that's tangible is that Gavin Newsom just came out with a plan for California to make IVF included in insurance. And IVF means that you have infertility issues. And
Mm-hmm.
what's also listed, which is very important, are same-sex couples because they're missing the DNA that's necessary in order to have a baby. So that's considered as infertility. There's a lot of different caveats that people need to know about that
We
can
love
dictate
Newsom.
infertility. So that's something that came out earlier this week that people need to know about, because if California is starting it, then it's going to lead the way for other states as well.
Absolutely. We're going to give you this little bit of news and then we're going to get a little bit ratchet before we head up out of here. So, as you know, or as you may not know, the East Coast and Gulf ports were on strike this week for the first time since 1970. 7. And now I need to go and see if this is on record as the shortest strike. I'm telling y'all, Daddy Biden took his belt off and said he put them people in the get along shirt. He said, Matrix, ILA, y'all gonna figure it out because y'all not gonna mess up this election cycle, which is exactly what would have happened. So about 50,000 longshoremen along the East Coast, everywhere from Maine, Boston, Jersey, Texas, Florida, you name it, were on strike for a multitude of reasons. And I keep saying this, I don't know why y'all don't hear me, but they were on strike for a multitude of reasons, meaning more than one. Maybe y'all don't know what multitude means, okay? One issue was the money. Another issue was automation. There were multiple issues. Okay, thank you, because y'all keep it's not about that. Don't at me no more. I promise you I'll block you. Anyway, so they were asking for $5 an hour over the next every year for the next 6 years. The average longshoreman makes about $39 an hour, and their average work week is 100 hours a week. They're not working the 80 that regular people work. Okay, that's number one. In from 2020 to 2023, the companies that the longshoremen move products for and that they benefit made a record $400 billion in profit. They had never in any other time frame made that much money. Okay. And again, we're sitting here talking about $5 an hour. In addition to that, they wanted automation protection because the obvious. So what happened yesterday was Joe Biden, and I'm paraphrasing, was like, listen, y'all in the way. If y'all strike during this election season, my girl Kamala is not going to win it. Figure it out. So what they did was the company that they were in Maritime, the company that they were in negotiation with, came up to $4 an hour. So they were a dollar short because that was going to break the company. So they will have their $4 an hour increase over the next 6 years. Every other conversation has been tabled, and they will continue to renegotiate. They will do this from now until January 15th. At the January 15th mark, if they don't get it together, then they will be back on strike. But that means that y'all can stop hoarding your toilet tissue and your ground turkey. It was never even at risk, you weirdos.
What is with the toilet paper? Why is that always the first thing? What's with the toilet paper?
I always assume so my anxiety is rooted in my tummy. The second I get anxious, it's like okay. So I always say, well, maybe everybody got nervous tummies and they just get scared. Like if we get too nervous, then maybe we'll run out. I don't know. I have never understood the mass hoarding because like, and this is what I said to my mom. My mom was like, you need to go grocery shopping, you da 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 da. And I'm like, girl, your man work for them. If anybody should not be scared, it should be you. Like you should know what he be bringing in and out. Like, hello, is the wife in the room with us? Anyway, I said, okay, just riddle me this, because how much can you go grocery shopping for? So I said, so let's say we go grocery shopping for 2 weeks and we don't have to go outside for nothing, no produce, no nothing for 2 weeks, right? If they do run out of food, then what? And she looked at me and I looked at her and I said, if they ain't got it, they ain't got it. I'm up 1 pound of ground beef. Okay.
All the way up. We're still like going through stuff that I mean, I am finding things that I was like, oh, I was buying stupid things during the pandemic, like mass amounts of potato chips. Like
please.
The toilet paper. I was like, oh no, everyone's like, there's no toilet paper. And then I realized, like, oh, wait, I do stock toilet paper in each bathroom. So I'm like, so I do have like a few rolls of toilet paper. So then
Right.
I was like, I felt bad. So I was like giving other people toilet paper. Like, are you down to your
I never did that.
Like
I never they didn't scare me enough to go buy extra, but they scared me enough to hold on to it.
I got it. I had that feeling where people were like, people are hoarding and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm just like, if I have a roll, like one of those towers, I like to keep it full.
It has
It's
to be
just
full.
the thing. So if there's more than one, if there's like a guest bathroom and then like your personal bathroom. So there would be like a stack. So I was like, well, I guess I don't didn't feel like a hoarder, but then it made me
No,
feel
that's not hoarding. That's self-care. Because what will drive me crazy is if I have to walk into that bathroom and see the gap, put the other roll on top of it. What is happening? Now that is for me, that is my form of self-care. This is really bad. I know how many packs of paper towels will get me through a year. I know how many I buy my toilet tissue from Costco. I know how many things would get me. Have I done the math? Yes. Do I have a problem? Maybe. But
that's
I I come from project management, right? So like my whole brain is like manage the project. Even when if we paint something, I'm the girl. I'm keeping the paint. I want the code. I'm writing it on an Excel sheet. So if we ever need to go, we get the same exact thing. Like I know, like I would be a great house manager. Anybody need a house manager? Call me,
I'm
girl.
like,
But
well, how much you charging? Because I could use some management. Okay. Like,
so I know. So when things get down to low, like whatever that is, I'm like, no, we have to go get toilet tissue. My husband would be like, because we're gonna run out, right? I'm like, no, but we're low. And he's like, could you define low?
I love it. It's impressive.
I like it.
I'm trying to get my wits about, I'm trying to get organized. I'm going through a lot of changes right now. And I'm like, it would be great if I could just if I could get to that level, not even that level, just a percentage of the level of organization that you have going on. I, everything in my house would run so smoothly.
No, it does run. Okay, so here's my pro tip. I did it like room by room. So like it started with like my makeup area, right? And then the I did the refrigerator, I did the pantry, like it started room by room. But my inspiration was like a store. I hate having every time we need something, I gotta go to the store. Oh, I gotta order that. I gotta whatever. So my goal was to like just stock it up. Like let's just get two or three. And then once you have two or three, you can see how fast you move through them. And then the math kind of just writes itself. So it's like if I get a
Yeah.
roll of paper towels in January and then I don't need to buy one until March, then I know on average I buy a thing every other month.
I love that. I love that. I want to, this is like, I'm maybe like an acts of service person.
Okay.
So I appreciate acts of service. This is how my friendships are set up. When I am completely all over the place and it's very clear that when I'm just rushed, like everything's a panic. I'm not because I'm not organized and it starts at home. And I have a couple of friends who will be like, I'm going to come to your house. And they will come to my house.
That's me. That's me.
And it is it's such a beautiful thing. It's
That's
such
like
a
I'm like
beautiful
move
thing.
over, girl. I can't because I can do this in 5 seconds and you pissing me off. Move.
Right. That's one of them is very much like that. Like, can you just get out? And I'm like,
Yeah.
but I want to know, like, get out of here.
Mm-mm.
And then
And then
it's like,
I'll finish it and I'll be like, you see this? Keep it looking like this. And then I just like walk off. You're welcome.
I love that. I love that. It's beautiful.
So next time I come to Denver, I'll come organized.
You know what? If I'm not home, I'll leave you a key.
Elle Murasaki House Management. Got our first client here.
Oh,
That relationship. You saw
mm,
how fast it went off the screen? Because that's how fast it lasted.
no. Oh,
Okay. Erica, you might not know this. The chit chatters know this. I like to deal in facts. I want to read an article, give me the facts, give me the data. I just feel like, there's so many celebrities, everybody's talking their opinions. The least I could do in my little blogosphere is be part of people putting out facts, at least as we know them, right? So I don't share all of the tea that I'd be into because some of it don't be rooted in facts. One of those things is blind items. If y'all are blind item girlies, then y'all know that we've been talking about this relationship being weird and on its way out for a very long time. If you're not a blind item girly, tea on the street is that basically DDG saw the cash cow. He saw the cash cow that she was. There was nothing accidental about this pregnancy. And allegedly, he is very jealous of her success. And they go to Paris. She's international. He's not. He might be a YouTuber, things like that, but he's not international. That's not shade. It's just a fact. I can't imagine what that does for the ego if every time if somebody's like, "Excuse, could you fucking move? I'm trying to get a picture with her. Like, what are you doing?" And you're like, "Oh, excuse me. I'm just the boyfriend, love of her life." I can only imagine that that begins to take a turn, but it took a turn. DDG took to his social media where he lives part time from that bed that he be streaming from. And he says, "Dear friends and supporters, after much reflection and heartfelt conversation, Hallie and I have decided to go our separate ways. The decision was not easy, but we believe it's best. It's the best path forward for both of us. I cherish the time we spent together, and I love in the love that we shared. Despite the changes in our relationship, our love for each other remains deep and true. We are still best friends and adore each other as we focus on our individual journeys and our role as co parents. We cherish the bond we've built and the beautiful moments we've shared. As we navigate this transition, we ask for your understanding and support." First of all, okay. We was not into you enough, DDG, for you to give us no Instagram story statement.
We want to hear from her and her publicist. That's the beginning and the end for us. I didn't know who DDJ was or G or I don't know. I don't know. I do know The Little Mermaid. Okay. I do know Grownish. I know
Ungodly hour too.
yeah,
Mm.
I know all of those things. We know her, sir. Um, I it gives me so much anxiety. It makes me so anxious because um being sleeping next to your biggest op is definitely a real thing. And it happens a lot. Generally, that's a growing experience that you hope you figure that out earlier in life and then you learn to spot and detect those things later. If there's a pregnancy, however, which also gives me a lot of anxiety. I had a partner in my early 20s and I was doing very well in my early 20s. And we had a group of friends, and some of them were professional athletes. And I overheard one of our professional athlete friends telling my partner that he needs to just knock me up so that I have to stay home and I would be out of the way.
Oh yeah, Offset. You my baby mama. I won.
Yeah, yeah, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. It's a way to say like, okay, well, where are you going to go? Now you as
Mhm.
the mother have this responsibility and I can be doing whatever and always be attached to
To
you.
you.
It's a plan. And I'm not saying that this particular guy that was his objective, but I'm saying that it is a thing. And as someone who is 43 and going through still IVF and all of that, I reflect on that time a lot to think, did I make the right decisions? And I am absolutely fine with those decisions. I am fine with the idea that as opposed to being connected with someone who is not meant to be in my life for the rest of my life, that I am just a childless cat lady. Um,
I think every day, I literally looked at my husband the other day and I was just like, I am thankful that I don't have to like co parent and do the whatever. And honestly, I always tell him, if you ever decide like you don't like me no more, you don't want to leave, you don't even really have to give me an explanation. Like just don't embarrass me. You know what I'm saying? Let me know you don't want me no more. I'm gonna go left, you go right, we'll piece it up, dap it up. It'll all be good, no problems. But my 2014 Virgo model human just turned 10. And I was talking to some of my friends, listening to some of their stories. I came home, I told my husband, I said, "Sir, in the next 8 years, if you decide you don't like me, tough it out. All right. I'm not doing it. I'm not co-parenting. I'm not sharing Christmas. So I no, no. You can run free and roam free when that girl turn 18. In between now and the next 8 years, if you discover that I give you the ick, go sleep in the guest bedroom because it ain't gonna be nothing. I'm not signing nothing until she 18. I promise you that.
I
Enjoy
understand.
as we figure out our life co-parenting. It won't be me.
Yeah.
I'm not figuring out co what. I'm be like, Hallie, I'm getting that. You know, Little Mermaid getting that full custody, okay? Ain't no judge to give it to no streamer. She's getting ready to get her child. Me and Halo will be in Europe, okay? Put in your paperwork if you need to call us. We're gonna end right here. I feel like every day it is more and more. Who was that? Avant? More and more. That's what this is. Okay. So we know earlier this week that Attorney Busby, he basically put out the call. Anybody, if you have a loved one ever been harassed by Mr. Papa Diddy Pop, hit me up. They got 3,000 phone calls. Of those 3,000 phone calls, they decided to make cases out of about 120 of them. In addition to that, there is now a hotline. Yesterday, I believe that hotline received over 12,000 phone calls saying that Diddy harassed him and all of that. And what I will say is what I've continued to say. There are a lot of people out here with a lot of real stories. We've been hearing about Diddy stories. If you were in radio, if you were in New York, if you were on the East Coast, if you were in entertainment, know somebody in entertainment, you've heard about some of these stories. Okay. But there are quite like some of the people who came out against Cosby, there are people who see cash cows. Okay. So you do have to hear these stories and kind of listen with your best judgment and discerning ear until we get to the court process and we can say for sure these are court stories. In all of that was a former bodyguard named Big Joe of Diddy, who is now going down. He is being named in a lawsuit. I'm going to let you guys listen to the story. Y'all know I like to give a disclaimer. The story is 3 minutes and 53 seconds, but again, it's jam-packed with information. You need it all. So listen to it and then we'll chit chat.
It's a lie on me. That's all I'm saying.
Big Joe Sherman wants you to look at his face and listen.
I don't know this lady from anywhere.
You've never met her?
Never in my life.
He's talking about this woman, Thalia Graves, who appeared at a highly promoted news conference last week with attorney Gloria Allred.
The trauma of the assault has taken a toll on my mental health.
The attorney for Graves announcing a federal lawsuit claiming that in 2001, the then 25-year-old was drugged and bound and viciously raped in the Manhattan headquarters of Bad Boy Entertainment by music mogul Sean Diddy Combs with his bodyguard and head of security Joe Sherman.
I'm not questioning her integrity. I'm questioning her claims against me. I wasn't the head of the security. You got the wrong man. I've never seen you. I've never did anything negative with you. I've never been in the same room with you. Not only wasn't I there, I wasn't even in New York.
Sherman says he did security for Bad Boy Records in the 90s, but wasn't working for the company in 2001.
Here's me and Mariah Carey.
Sherman provided us with his personal album of photos with celebrity clients he says he's protected over the years.
Me and Beyonce.
He says he did see Diddy at industry parties after Sherman left the company, but there was no relationship. Big Joe maintains he is being set up by false accusations.
Her and whoever that she's in cahoots with was orchestrating a money grab, and she wanted me to be part of that money grab. It says it right in her texts. And she wanted to get Diddy.
Sherman showed us texts from an Instagram account starting last November. He says his team has linked to Graves. We confirmed the connection. The first text asked if Sherman was a security guard for Puffy.
She confused me because she kept saying, "Are you Big Joe?" I said, "You're on my Instagram."
When she asked, "Are you Big Joe?" what did that mean to you?
That means that she don't know who I am.
The text asked him to call the number and goes on to say, if you will be my witness against Diddy, then my attorneys will leave you out of any proceedings because we have statements that you physically showed over 8 people, videos of me and you to people in the studio. Sherman responded, I don't know what the expletive you talking about. Know who the expletive you are. He was still named in the lawsuit.
Was there any video?
Not only was there never a video, I never saw the woman. I'm nothing but a scapegoat for this BS. Because I wouldn't get Puffy and lie on Sean Combs.
We reached out to Allred asking about the texts and Sherman's denial that he was involved. Her email response, the complaint speaks for itself. Our client looks forward to her day in court. Allred's lawsuit describes Sherman as being involved in a company that produces and distributes pornography.
I don't show nude women.
He says his media outlets publish urban rap magazines that often feature scantily clad women, arguing the photos are similar to ones he's posted on social media.
Am I wrong for having fun on my birthday? Yes, I did all that. I'm single. You can call me that. But I never disrespected or seen this woman in my life. Come on. It's a money grab because they told you it's a money grab. And she know that what she did to me destroyed my family, destroyed my livelihood. I can't get a job.
Sherman's legal team says they plan on filing a counterclaim in the near future that will likely include defamation. Combs's attorneys have not yet responded to the lawsuit. Sarah Wallace, News 4 New York.
Child. I told you, some of the people are just trying to come for the cash cow. And some of them have stories.
Okay. I don't know who this man is. I don't know if he's guilty or he's innocent. I do know that he needs to stop talking and texting with people, and he needs to find himself some legal representation. I mean, it is giving R. Kelly interview with Gail. It is giving he who protests too much. It's giving a lot. And I know that a lot of people will say, like, if you're, if you have to fight for your freedom and against the allegations and all this stuff, that's not the way to do it. It's just not. And I don't know if, I don't know who his counsel is. I would hope that if you can party on a yacht, you can afford legal counsel.
Clear.
Like, I hope that those two things go hand in hand, but it doesn't appear that they are, because he's speaking to the media and texting back with random people. Like, why are you doing that? The other thing is, this is a really great example that I was very clear with my brother when he got to college, because he was on a football team for a D1 university. I am very clear with especially my male friends, family. You have to be so careful about the company that you keep, because the presumption is always going to be that if you are with the pigs rolling in the mud, you are muddy. You're dirty. So that's the reason why it's like, you might have a friend who, always is popping up. They got the bet. Yeah, all the things. But are you willing to be associated with them when things get ugly? Because that's what's going to happen. It's just what it is.
And I think the first thing I said when I watched this video, I literally paused it and said, "Where is your representative, Nene Leakes' voice?" Like, because I felt like master of disguise. This is what you're doing. This is what I want you to do. Shut up. Okay. Also, I was like, Gene and Gene Deal, the bodyguard who worked for Diddy, it's very clear he was not a long-term bodyguard. He was there for like a moment in time, right? He was pretty much like doing Diddy and the team a favor based on his association with A$AP Rocky's father and all of that. They all come from Harlem. My thing with this Big Joe guy is, if you stop working with Diddy in the late 90s, and I know that this is asking a lot from somebody who allegedly clearly is a scary man, but Gene been talking. He saw something that wasn't right, and that guilt eats him up inside. He damn near can't shut up. It's like the way he gets out of his hell loop is by making sure he tells the truth and sounds the alarm. All you doing is screaming they got the wrong person. And it's like, yeah, but Joe, were you standing outside the door when he was taking advantage of them people? Was you present when he was carrying in passed out women into the bedroom? That's what we're asking you. We don't care nothing about them pictures of the girls on the yachts and none of that. Were you one of the people Busby was talking about when he said there were a lot of people that allowed this behavior to happen? And if the answer to that question is yes, then you're gonna go where he going. And that's okay. Because when you do the crime, you better time. That's how that. But until then, please shut up.
You were literally partying on yachts with magnum bottles of Ace of Spades, I believe that was.
Yes, it was.
Why don't you have an attorney? Why don't you have just one? You don't even need a team. Just one attorney.
One publicist friend. Why don't you have a friend? Because who told you that was a good idea?
And it's also mind-blowing to me too, because how they fish now, so people will randomly like text your phone and be like,
of course,
is this Erica? Whatever. And like it's just automatic delete. Like if you are texting me, if you have my number and you don't know it's me, but we don't have anything to talk about. And how did you get my number? Like that's question number one. So why are you communicating? Because to me, that feels like what else was coming to him that he felt the need to continue to communicate with someone who came to him private. Like that's saying, oh, there's something and I just want to see, let me get ahead of this and see where this leads. If someone
What's it called? A catch and kill?
Right. That's honestly what it's giving, because if someone when I get a text message like, and it's generally like, oh, is this Eric? I'm like always like, how does everyone leave off the A? Like that, those are two different names. Two different names. Is this Eric? Okay, well, we don't have anything to talk about.
Not at all.
Like that message started with, what is this so and so on your Instagram?
And if you don't know that girl and that girl don't know you, you had to go and click that request button. You clicked it because it didn't pop up in your general box.
It's just, I'm not saying if the man is guilty or innocent, but I am saying it's things that make you go, And I'm going, That's all.
That's it.
That's all. Just
And I'm gonna continue to say until we get to court. Erica, thank you for spending these 72 minutes with us, not us running over and y'all hanging out. You love us. You can't get enough of us. Erica, tell the people where they can find you, where they can stay in touch with you, all that good stuff.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me. I absolutely adore you. You are doing the Lord's work, child, and we appreciate you. You can follow me at Erica Cobb on all social media platforms except for TikTok, which is at I am Erica Cobb. I'll try to be better about posting there. And I have my podcast, Come Back with Erica Cobb, which is available on all podcast platforms. And I also do a video version on YouTube, which drops weekly on Sundays. So come check it out. Like, follow, subscribe, all the things.
Daytime talk.
Yes.
I keep messing up the name. I swear it's not shady.
Daytime Talk After Dark. So the hosts of Daily Blast Live have entered the podcast space with Daytime Talk After Dark, and we go live every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. So you can join that conversation over there. And again, that's available on YouTube, and then it posts to podcasts. And there's a Friday bonus episode as well. So you get 2 days of the host or the former host of DBL.
Look at that. I keep trying to say daytime talk in the nighttime. I always try to put nighttime in there, and then I'd be like, wait, no, this is wrong. I'm messing it up.
You're like, it's the day of the host, of the
It's the
time, of the daily.
melatonin we be sleep awake
Yeah.
sometimes. No, it's really good. It's a good podcast. Guys, thank you all for being here. You know the normal. You could be anywhere on the internet, but you were here chit-chatting with us, and that is greatly appreciated. It costs free 99 to be a good person. So when you go out in the world, do that shit. See you next week on Monday. We'll be back and we'll chit-chat about everything that happened over the weekend. Bye.
Bye.